debate stage was buzzing, lights glaring, cameras panning, the tension thick enough to slice through. Kanye West leaned into the microphone, a confident smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. The audience waited for what they thought would be a standard, if fiery, exchange, but no one was prepared for the moment that would ignite the internet in seconds. "You know, Jasmine," Kanye began, his tone casual but dripping with condescension. "With all due respect, your education doesn't exactly match the level of this conversation." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Gasps rippled through the studio. Commentators froze mid-sentence, and for a heartbeat the world seemed to hold its breath. The insult wasn't just sharp, it was a direct attack on Crockett's credibility, a public challenge meant to destabilize her. Crockett's eyes narrowed slightly, but her composure never faltered. The cameras captured every detail, the twitch of a jaw, the subtle lift of an eyebrow, the poised inhale before she responded. In the audience, murmurs spread like wildfire. Social media accounts lit up instantly, tweets, hashtags, and emojis exploding as viewers expressed shock, outrage, and disbelief. Did he really just say that? Kanye went too far this time. Crockett's about to shut him down. Kanye's smirk grew wider, sensing the chaos he had sparked. He leaned back, basking in the reaction, convinced that he had the upper hand. The room was divided. Some laughed nervously at his audacity. Others shook their heads in silent condemnation, and all eyes were locked on Crockett, waiting to see if she would crumble or retaliate. The tension was cinematic in every sense. Close-up shots of whispered conversations, reaction shots of commentators frozen mid-thought, camera pans capturing the shifting energy of the crowd. Every frame reinforced the clash, arrogance poised against intellect, bluster confronting calm authority. Then, the subtle signs began. Crockett's lips pressed together in a controlled smile, a quiet energy emanating from her stance that suggested this was far from over. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't rush. Yet there was an unmistakable certainty in her gaze, a promise that what came next would turn the entire narrative on its head. But seconds later, what Crockett said left Kanye, and the entire audience, speechless. This wasn't just another televised clash. It was a defining moment in 2025, a collision of culture, politics, and public perception. The cameras captured every detail because the stakes extended far beyond the studio walls. In an era where every word is amplified across social media and every facial expression is dissected by millions, this debate had the potential to shape narratives about leadership, respect, and credibility. For America, it wasn't merely about celebrity or politics. It was about how public discourse was conducted, who was elevated, and who was silenced. Kanye West's presence alone guaranteed chaos. Known for impulsive outbursts and headline-grabbing antics, he thrived on the energy of disruption. His reputation was built on bold statements, unpredictable reactions, and the ability to dominate attention without preparation. On the surface, he exuded confidence, his every movement designed to command the stage. But beneath the bravado lay a glaring vulnerability, a reliance on shock over substance, spectacle over strategy. The audience sensed it intuitively, even if some admired his audacity. Across the stage stood Jasmine Crockett, an embodiment of calm intelligence and meticulous preparation. Every gesture, every measured word spoke of years spent navigating high-pressure situations, mastering policy, and commanding respect without theatrics. She didn't seek to dominate through volume or spectacle. She sought to be understood, to convey truth with precision. The contrast could not have been more stark. One figure thrived on chaos and interruption, the other on thoughtful authority and unshakable composure. For the audience, this polarity heightened the tension. Each pause, each glance, each micro-expression carried weight. Every viewer at home, scrolling through live tweets and viral clips, understood that what unfolded in these minutes could dominate conversations for weeks. This wasn't simply entertainment. It was a referendum on character, a live test of intellect versus arrogance, strategy versus impulsiveness. The cultural stakes were enormous. If Kanye succeeded in discrediting Crockett with a flippant insult, the narrative could skew in favor of spectacle over substance. If Crockett responded with measured brilliance, she could redefine the conversation, demonstrating that integrity and intelligence triumph over performative dominance. Even commentators felt the pressure. Analysts leaned into their microphones, framing the debate not just as a battle of personalities, but as a microcosm of 2025's social and political climate. Conversations about race, education, leadership, and cultural credibility overlapped in real time with the debate itself. Social media was already a ticking time bomb, reactions multiplying by the second, forcing viewers to watch closely or risk missing the defining moment. Every word mattered, every pause carried implications, and the tension between the two figures created a magnetic energy that few could ignore. Audiences weren't just passive observers, they were participants in a live drama, primed for the shift that seemed inevitable. The imbalance of arrogance against poise created suspense, teasing a moment that could redefine perceptions of power, influence, and public discourse. The stage was no longer just a platform for debate. It had become a crucible, testing courage, intellect, and the limits of patience. With tension building and every word magnified, the stage was set for a confrontation no one could ignore. Kanye West is a name that commands attention, sometimes admiration, sometimes outrage, but always spectacle. His rise to prominence was fueled not just by music, fashion, and entrepreneurship, but by an uncanny ability to dominate conversations, provoke reactions, and turn the ordinary into headline-making chaos. For years, audiences had grown accustomed to his unpredictable public appearances, each one a mix of genius, ego, and volatility. He thrived on the spotlight, often using it as a stage to assert dominance, disrupt norms, and challenge authority, whether in boardrooms, award shows, or political platforms. Public provocations had become his signature. From the infamous stage interruptions that left viewers stunned to on-air statements that set social media ablaze, Kanye's history was a mosaic of impulsive brilliance and reckless audacity. One moment he would praise, the next he would condemn, his statements unpredictable yet always commanding attention. Headlines chronicled his every misstep and triumph. Kanye shocks the world again, legend or lunatic. Kanye's latest outburst divides fans, unfiltered, unstoppable, unpredictable. Each headline painted him as someone fearless in confrontation, unwilling to bow to convention or restraint. Yet beneath the surface of this bravado was a pattern that few had leveraged against him successfully. Impulsiveness often disguised unpreparedness. His attacks were ego-driven, designed to assert superiority, but they frequently lacked the precision or depth to withstand scrutiny. From televised rants to social media tirades, Kanye had shown a tendency to speak first and think later, confident that charisma and shock value could carry him through. The world watched as his confidence occasionally veered into overconfidence, a subtle vulnerability waiting to be exposed. Consider his public statements over the years, moments that went viral not because of insight, but because of audacity. Comments belittling peers, dismissing critics, or challenging convention grabbed headlines, drawing applause from some corners and condemnation from others. Fans celebrated his fearlessness. Critics lambasted his recklessness. The pattern was unmistakable: confront, dominate, and let spectacle do the work. Knowledge, preparation, and restraint often took a backseat to ego, and history suggested that when confronted by someone calm, calculated, and unflinching, Kanye's usual armor of confidence could falter. Even clips from previous interviews illustrate the dynamic vividly. He would interrupt, mock, or belittle, a smirk always ready for the camera. Analysts often noted that his charm was inseparable from his unpredictability. His audacity was magnetic, yet his impulsive nature left openings for counterattack. Moments that seemed minor in isolation, dismissive gestures, sarcastic quips, off-the-cuff remarks, accumulated into a pattern of behavior that revealed a susceptibility masked by fame and spectacle. This is the context in which the Crockett confrontation unfolded. Kanye's reputation as a disruptor preceded him. He was confident, brash, and accustomed to commanding attention without accountability for the impact of his words. Every interruption, every jibe, was part of a formula honed over years: shock first, rationale second, or not at all. Yet, while he expected the familiar dynamic to continue, he was stepping onto a stage where intellect and preparation were equally formidable forces. The world had witnessed Kanye as a figure who could dominate a conversation, but rarely as one who would be met with unshakable composure, measured insight, and strategic brilliance. Crockett represented the antithesis of everything his public persona thrived upon. Where he relied on impulse, she relied on planning. Where he sought attention, she sought truth. Where he wielded chaos, she wielded clarity. But even a legend can meet their match, and Crockett was ready. Jasmine Crockett's story is one of perseverance, intellect, and unwavering dedication. Long before the glare of studio lights or the scrutiny of social media, she was building the foundation that would allow her to stand tall in moments like these. Born into a world that often underestimated her, she learned early that success required more than talent. It demanded preparation, resilience, and a refusal to let anyone else define her limits. Education became her first arena of triumph. Every lecture attended, every paper written, every debate participated in was a deliberate step toward mastering not just knowledge, but the art of influence and persuasion. Her journey through higher education was marked by both brilliance and challenge. She navigated rigorous academic expectations while balancing the realities of life outside the classroom. Scholarships, late-night study sessions, and relentless commitment shaped her not just into a scholar, but into a leader capable of commanding respect in any setting. Her intellect was precise, analytical, and grounded in facts, but it was also flexible, able to pivot under pressure and adapt to situations that demanded more than textbook knowledge. Crockett understood that true intelligence was measured not by memorization, but by the ability to respond thoughtfully when stakes were highest. Public service became the next chapter in her journey. Whether advocating for underserved communities, shaping policy, or standing up for civil rights, Crockett's career was defined by action rooted in principle. Each initiative, each legislative effort, reflected a careful balance of empathy and strategy. She didn't just aim to be heard, she aimed to make a tangible difference, to leave a lasting impact. It was in these arenas that her patience and poise were honed, skills that would later prove invaluable in the face of public provocation. Confrontation was inevitable, but Crockett learned that calm, deliberate responses often spoke louder than anger or theatrics ever could. Her resilience extended beyond professional milestones. Crockett faced critics, doubters, and societal barriers with a quiet strength that inspired those around her. Every challenge reinforced a mindset that adversity could be transformed into opportunity. She understood the subtle power of presence. A composed demeanor, a steady voice, and unwavering focus could disarm even the most aggressive opponents. Where others might react impulsively, she calculated, anticipating the angles and preparing responses that carried weight, clarity, and authority. Crockett's preparation was not limited to policy or rhetoric. It encompassed emotional intelligence. She mastered the ability to read rooms, gauge reactions, and adjust her delivery without compromising substance. This skill, developed through years of negotiation, advocacy, and public engagement, gave her an edge in confrontations that were equal parts psychological and intellectual. In debates, interviews, or high-stakes public moments, she could remain unshaken, turning pressure into a platform for demonstration of competence and credibility. Her reputation was built on credibility earned through action, not theatrics. Media narratives often painted Crockett as the composed, intelligent counterweight in a landscape dominated by impulsive personalities. Her ability to remain grounded under scrutiny inspired admiration from colleagues, constituents, and observers alike. She demonstrated that leadership was not about dominance through volume, but about influence through substance. Every public appearance reinforced her image as a figure capable of standing firm against provocation. And each challenge she faced became a lesson in strategic resilience. By the time she stepped onto the stage facing Kanye West, Crockett carried the sum of these experiences. Her education had sharpened her mind. Her public service had honed her judgment. Her personal resilience had forged patience and fortitude. And her strategic mindset had taught her how to turn even a calculated attack into an opportunity for clarity, insight, and impact. She was not just prepared to respond. She was prepared to redefine the terms of the exchange, to demonstrate that poise and intellect could decisively counter ego and impulsiveness. Every lesson, every struggle had led to this defining moment. The studio lights seemed to sharpen the tension, casting every expression into high definition. Kanye leaned forward, eyes gleaming with mischief and certainty. His voice cut through the murmurs like a whip, each word an attempt to assert dominance. "Honestly, Jasmine," he said, smirking, I don't know if this conversation is really for someone with your background. The insult landed like a verbal jolt, sending ripples through the room. Commentators froze, the live audience gasped, and the online world erupted in real time. Tweets appeared in milliseconds. Did Kanye just disrespect her like that? Crockett about to shut him down. Watch. Kanye's tactics escalated with every passing second. He interrupted repeatedly, talking over moderators, cutting off Crockett mid-sentence, and punctuating his attacks with sarcastic laughter. Each jab was designed to provoke, to destabilize, to assert that the stage belonged to him. Cameras captured the flicker of frustration on some faces, the tightening of jaws, the subtle sideways glances from commentators who had seen this pattern before. Whispers spread across the room, each echo feeding the tension, building an almost tangible weight in the air. Yet Crockett remained unshaken. Her posture was calm, her tone deliberate, each word measured. She acknowledged his interruptions without raising her voice, reframing his attacks into points that highlighted clarity, logic, and principle. "I appreciate your perspective," she said, her voice steady. "But the facts on this issue speak for themselves." Every response subtly chipped away at Kanye's projected confidence, a reminder that composure could counter chaos. Camera pans captured the contrast vividly, his aggressive gestures and raised voice against her quiet, commanding presence. The audience felt it instantly. Gasps punctuated every exchange, reactions flaring like wildfire across social media. Live tweet feeds were alive with anticipation. This is getting intense. Crockett is holding her ground like a pro. Every interruption from Kanye only heightened the suspense, making Crockett's measured responses feel even more decisive. The studio seemed to pulse with energy, a cinematic tension mounting with each verbal volley. Kanye's ego-driven attacks continued, each one more audacious than the last. He mocked her intelligence, questioned her expertise, and tried to provoke an emotional response. But Crockett's preparation showed in the precision of her rebuttals. She addressed points with clarity, turning each jab into an opportunity to demonstrate knowledge, strategic thinking, and unshakable confidence. Her calm was not passive. It was an active force, reshaping the narrative with every sentence. The clash reached a fever pitch. Camera angles highlighted the subtle shifts in energy. Kanye's smirk faltering, his gestures becoming less assured, the murmurs in the room growing louder. The audience could sense that the tipping point was near. Every eye was on Crockett, every mind braced for the moment that would define the exchange. The tension was almost unbearable, each pause and glance loaded with anticipation, as if the world itself was holding its breath. And then, in a single unforgettable sentence, Crockett flipped the entire exchange. The room held its breath. Every camera, every eye, every social media stream waited for Jasmine Crockett's response. After 9 relentless interruptions from Kanye West, the tension was almost unbearable, thick as fog and crackling with anticipation. Crockett paused, allowing the weight of the moment to settle. There was no panic, no rush, only calm authority. Her gaze met Kanye's, steady and unwavering, a subtle challenge that communicated more than words ever could. She had been here before, mentally and emotionally prepared, and now the world was about to witness the culmination of years of poise, strategy, and intellect. Respectfully, Crockett began, her voice smooth yet firm. Education is not measured by your ability to shout over others or to dominate a conversation with arrogance. True understanding comes from listening, learning, and engaging with ideas, something that even the loudest voice cannot replace. The first few words were met with shocked silence. Kanye's smirk faltered. His eyes blinked rapidly as he processed her calm, incisive clarity. The studio seemed to contract around her statement, the weight of her intellect and composure pressing down on the chaos he had tried to control. She let the sentence hang, each syllable deliberate, as if time itself had slowed. The audience shifted in their seats, whispers filling the room. Camera pans captured the reactions of commentators and crew alike. Some mouths hung open, others exchanged stunned glances, and the live broadcast captured every micro-expression with cinematic precision. Social media was already ablaze, live clips being shared, each word dissected and celebrated. Hashtags began trending within minutes. Sure, Crocodowns Kanye. Sure, mic drop moment. Respect matters. Viewers everywhere were replaying the moment in slow motion. savoring the exact phrasing, the confident delivery, and the sheer precision of her takedown. Kanye tried to recover, opening his mouth to respond, but his usual confidence wavered. His gestures grew smaller, less assured. The interruption-filled bravado that had carried him through countless public appearances seemed to falter under the weight of Crockett's calm dominance. He leaned back, blinked, and for the first time the room sensed vulnerability. The narrative had shifted. The aggressor was now on the defensive, the previously untouchable figure exposed. Viewers online didn't just watch. They analyzed every reaction, posting memes, GIFs, and commentary that amplified Crockett's triumph. Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't mock or ridicule. She allowed her intellect and strategic articulation to do the work. "When we demean knowledge to serve ego," she continued, "we lose the very foundation of meaningful dialogue. And the consequences aren't just personal. They ripple through our communities, our culture, and our society." Her words resonated not only in the studio but across living rooms, devices, and social media feeds nationwide. It was a reminder that dignity, preparation, and composure could not only withstand arrogance but completely neutralize it. The reactions were immediate and dramatic. Commentators described the exchange as jaw-dropping, savage, and unforgettable. Celebrities weighed in, praising Crockett's poise and intelligence. Political pundits analyzed her rhetoric, noting the precision, strategic pacing, and emotional resonance of her delivery. The contrast was unmistakable. Kanye's impulsive, ego-driven style crumbled under scrutiny, while Crockett's thoughtful, measured response elevated her status, reaffirming her credibility and command. Every pause she took was a masterclass in suspense. Audience members shifted in their seats, leaning forward, caught in the rhythm of her words. Each slow reveal, the calculated way she addressed his insults, reframed the narrative, and underscored the principles of respect and intellect, felt cinematic. The studio lights reflected off her composed face, highlighting the calm in the storm, the dignity that no interruption, no mockery could shake. Social media erupted in a tidal wave of reactions. Viral clips circulated within minutes, each snippet of her sentence shared, liked, and retweeted thousands of times. Memes and GIFs spread with lightning speed, juxtaposing Kanye's faltering smirk with Crockett's unshakable poise. Fans, journalists, celebrities, and commentators all joined the chorus of admiration, praising her ability to turn a potentially volatile moment into a statement of intellect and integrity. Crockett just schooled Kanye live on air. Mic drop of the year. This is what composure looks like. The world was watching, reacting, and sharing, her influence extending far beyond the studio. Kanye, sensing the shift, attempted a final interjection, but it was too late. The narrative had solidified. He was no longer the provocateur in control. He was the figure undone by his own arrogance, exposed to a public that now saw the contrast so clearly. The power of preparation, strategy, and calm intellect had turned the tide, leaving him visibly rattled and unsure. Even supporters struggled to frame his response, as the spectacle had become a lesson in composure over chaos. As Crockett's final words echoed in the studio, the cameras captured the culmination of the moment, stunned silence, subtle nods of respect, whispered affirmations from commentators, and an audience collectively realizing they had just witnessed something extraordinary. Every interruption, every attempt at provocation, had been neutralized, not with anger or theatrics, but with strategic brilliance and unwavering dignity. The moment was more than a comeback. It was a defining statement. Social media would continue to dissect it for hours. News outlets would replay it for days, and public discourse would carry the lesson far beyond the studio. Crockett had not only defended her education, her credibility, and her intellect, but she had also demonstrated a universal truth. Poise, preparation, and moral clarity can decisively counter even the most aggressive, ego-driven provocations. The studio fell silent and the online world erupted. The moment Crockett delivered her searing, poised response, the digital world ignited. Social media exploded with a cacophony of reactions. Hashtags trended within minutes. Crockett vs. Kanye, and his mic drop moment, respect over ego. GIFs capturing her calm expression and Kanye's faltering smirk went viral, shared by millions who couldn't stop replaying the scene. Comment threads overflowed with admiration, incredulity, and debate. Some users celebrated Crockett as a hero of intellect and composure, while others dissected every nuance of Kanye's sudden vulnerability. The contrast between the two personalities became a magnet for public fascination. Arrogance versus preparation. Chaos versus control. Ego versus reason. Late-night commentators and political pundits seized on the moment. Clips of Crockett's decisive sentence became centerpiece material for analysis segments. Hosts repeatedly highlighted her strategic brilliance, emphasizing the way she had disarmed a provocative adversary without raising her voice or breaking composure. In one viral segment, a political analyst called it a masterclass in turning confrontation into a statement of principle. Even celebrity commentators weighed in, praising her ability to assert authority with intelligence rather than theatrics, framing her as a symbol of dignity in a world increasingly obsessed with shock value. Meanwhile, the narrative surrounding Kanye shifted. His usual bravado and performative interruptions, once celebrated by parts of his audience, were now scrutinized in stark relief against Crockett's measured approach. Clips circulated highlighting the contrast, his gestures exaggerated and frantic, hers deliberate and controlled. Public discourse began to redefine what leadership, credibility, and influence looked like. For a moment, the conversation wasn't about celebrity alone. It was about the power of preparation, intellect, and emotional resilience in the face of provocation. The ripple effect extended far beyond social media. Opinion pieces and think pieces proliferated online and in print, analyzing the cultural significance of the exchange. Headlines read, "Jasmine Crockett shows why composure beats ego. The day ego met strategy, Crockett versus Kanye. Viral lesson in respect, intelligence, and public discourse." News cycles were dominated not by who interrupted whom, but by the broader implications for how society values knowledge, decorum, and patience in heated exchanges. Even beyond politics and celebrity, the exchange became a teaching moment. Educational forums, civic groups, and online communities used the clip to spark discussions about respect, preparation, and ethical engagement. Social media influencers and educators alike dissected the moment, drawing lessons from Crockett's ability to convert personal attacks into an opportunity to model critical thinking and integrity. Her example became a blueprint for handling confrontation in professional, academic, and personal arenas, demonstrating that measured responses often carry far more weight than reactive outbursts. The studio audience replayed the moment in conversation long after the broadcast ended. Clips of the exchange flooded group chats, discussion boards, and video platforms. Fans of Crockett celebrated the victory, while those who followed Kanye closely debated the implications of his faltering demeanor. The moment had transcended the immediate clash. It became a touchstone for a broader societal conversation about respect, intellectual rigor, and composure in public life. What made the event unforgettable wasn't just the viral nature of the clip, it was the cultural resonance. Crockett's performance reminded viewers that dignity and intelligence are forces that command attention, even in an era dominated by spectacle. In a media landscape where provocation often trumps substance, her ability to stand firm under pressure shifted expectations for public discourse. Audiences saw that courage and preparation could decisively shape the narrative, turning a potentially humiliating moment for herself into an emblem of empowerment for millions. But beyond the viral sensation, a deeper lesson emerged. In the quiet that followed the viral exchange, the lesson became unmistakably clear. Dignity, preparation, and calm composure can dismantle even the loudest, most impulsive arrogance. Jasmine Crockett's measured response was more than a rebuttal. It was a demonstration of universal truths that extend far beyond a single stage, a single confrontation, or a single celebrity clash. In a culture often obsessed with theatrics, interruptions, and shock value, her example illuminated a simple yet profound reality. Substance always outlasts spectacle. Crockett's triumph wasn't born of volume or dramatics. It was forged through intelligence, patience, and strategic insight. She didn't need to yell to dominate the conversation. She didn't need to mock to command respect. Every word she spoke was calculated, every pause intentional, every glance deliberate. The audience, both in studio and online, could feel it. Her calm was not weakness, it was mastery. In facing Kanye West, a figure synonymous with bold interruptions and provocative commentary, Crockett proved that restraint and preparation carry a power that impulsiveness cannot withstand. The impact resonated far beyond that moment. Viewers everywhere recognize the importance of intellectual integrity and courage. Across social media, classrooms, civic forums, and living rooms, Crockett's example became a blueprint for engagement, a reminder that real influence comes from clarity of thought and moral grounding. People began reflecting not just on the debate itself, but on how they handle conflict in their own lives, how composure, preparation, and dignity could turn confrontation into opportunity, rather than chaos. Her performance underscored a larger cultural truth. Courage is not defined by the ability to dominate or disrupt, but by the willingness to stand firm in principle and speak with precision, even under pressure. Crockett's grace in the face of insult became an emblem of resilience, demonstrating that intelligence paired with composure can reshape narratives, influence public perception, and inspire millions. The triumph was cinematic, a crescendo of both strategy and character, leaving a lasting imprint on all who witnessed it. The clash, once defined by ego and provocation, was now remembered as a lesson in strategic brilliance. Her measured words echoed like a manifesto. That integrity matters more than intimidation, insight outweighs theatrics, and respect, earned through preparation and poise, has the power to silence arrogance. The broader audience absorbed not just the moment itself, but its symbolism, a reminder that societal progress, discourse, and understanding flourish when courage is coupled with wisdom, because in the end, it wasn't just an insult, it was a lesson in respect, strategy, and truth. Jasmine Crockett's unforgettable response to Kanye West's insult wasn't just a viral moment. It was a masterclass in composure, intellect, and dignity under pressure. From the first interruption to her decisive, jaw-dropping 10th sentence, Crockett demonstrated that preparation and poise can overcome arrogance and impulsiveness, leaving a powerful lesson for anyone watching. The story of this exchange, captured in real time, reminds us that courage isn't measured by volume or theatrics. It's measured by the strength of your mind, the clarity of your principles, and the resilience of your character. If this exchange inspired you, there's more to explore. Subscribe to the channel to catch every high-stakes debate, explosive confrontation, and cinematic showdown. Share this video with friends, family, and colleagues to spread the lesson of intellect triumphing over ego. Engage responsibly in political discourse. Amplify voices rooted in truth. Elevate conversations grounded in respect. And never underestimate the power of preparation. Remember, moments like Crockett's aren't just about winning an argument. They're about modeling the values we aspire to uphold. Dignity triumphs when arrogance falters. Courage is contagious, and measured intellect carries influence far beyond a single stage. Every time you choose composure over chaos, insight over impulse, you contribute to a culture where respect, strategy, and truth matter. Let this video serve as a reminder. In a world that often rewards spectacle, the quiet power of preparation and principle will always stand taller, because in the end, triumph belongs not to those who shout the loudest, but to those who act with integrity, wisdom, and unwavering courage.